Let's take a look into my personal comic book collection. Let's go. Hello, YouTube. Axiomat here once again. And because I decided to make my Top 5 Tuesday a recurring video segment where I list my favorite top 5 of any topic, whether that be my favorite sci-fi movies, favorite comic books, favorite whatever the case may be. I also wanted to do, I've been having so much fun with it that I wanted to do something else. The name of my channel is Axiomat Comics. So I started going through my videos. I have a little over 100 videos posted so far, and not a lot of them are about comic books. And yet, if you've seen my videos, you've seen my backgrounds, I obviously have a lot of comic books. A small fraction of them are on my walls. So I thought of a segment just called Comic Book Look and a Brewsky. Probably not a good combination, right? Like beer around comic books. But just came up with the name Comic Book Look and a Brewsky. This is a segment where every Friday night I pull a comic book from my personal collection and I talk about it, take it out of the bag, open it up, depending, right? Some of these books that are encased CGC, what they're already in that hard plastic casing. Yeah, I'm not going to open those up. But for all the rest, and I have a lot, I wanted to share my personal comic book collection. And what better way to do that than to have a Friday night segment where I talk about and showcase one book, one specifically key issue comic book from my collection. I mean, this segment can go on for years. And hey, that's what I plan to. Content, right? But not just for the sake of content, but because I actually do want to show you guys what's on the walls, what's in my small boxes, long boxes of comic books. So let's get into the first video in this segment on a Friday night. The first book that I decided to go with from my extensive collection, totally showing off right now, huh? Is I decided to just go off my X-Men wall. I picked the one all the way to the top, left or right, depending on how your viewpoint is. And it is X-Men 94. X-Men 94 came out. Well, there's a story behind X-Men 94. There's a reason why this is such a big book, a very key issue book, not just in the X-Men run, but in Marvel Comics history. So let me tell you the little bit of story about it. Back when the X-Men were launched, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, back in 1963, the X-Men it wasn't a popular book. There's a lot of documentaries that cover this. So the book was only coming out like once a month, once, sometimes even 2-3 months at a time. And after a while, just to continue the book, they stopped making new stories. So what they did, which is not cool in my opinion, but whatever, they started rehashing the stories from the beginning. So X-Men number 50, I forget the number, but X-Men number like 60 something was technically just the same book as number 1. So 63 was number 2, 64 was number, and so on and so forth. So the continuation of the X-Men story was not a continuation at all. It was just telling the same story, but continuing the comic book number run. 63, 64, 65, 66. A little shisty because you're not really telling anybody a new story. You're just kind of rebranding it with the exact same contents on the inside of the book. Yeah. And then enter Chris Claremont. The name, the guy, the genius that reinvented the X-Men and gave us one of the best stories in not just Marvel history, but in comic books in general, the Phoenix Saga. Phoenix Saga, Dark Phoenix Saga, arguably the best Marvel comic story to date. Fight me in the comment section. It's one of the best. So how did they do it? So when issue 93 of X-Men came out, they didn't want to go back. They were already doing this. They didn't want to start with another number one. That just wasn't done back then. You know, back in the 70s, 80s. Yeah, they didn't do that like they do now. They launch a new number one like every 5 minutes, it seems like. So instead of just starting again, okay, well, this is going to be Chris Claremont's X-Men. So let's start with number one. No, they didn't do that. They started with Giant Size X-Men number one, which is actually on my wall here, which launched the brand new X-Men team, right? It's the first time Wolverine was introduced into the X-Men comic story. His initial debut, his first appearance was in Hulk story, 180, 181. So it was Wolverine's first time in the X-Men title, along with Storm, Nightcrawler, Thunderbird, Colossus. I mean, big new names into the X-Men mythos that are still relevant. Did I just say relevant, like elephant? They are as iconic today as they were when they first launched back in 75 on that Giant Size X-Men number one. But I said Giant Size X-Men, right? This was the Giant Size X-Men book, not part of the regular run. You know, the timeline, the sacred timeline, as they like to use in the MCU nowadays. So the last reprint, the last shady, I guess, if you will, X-Men reprint was 93. Giant Size X-Men comes into the fold, and 94. They just went ahead, started 94. So the events that happened in Giant Size X-Men number one continue on to the all new, all different X-Men in this book. So you can technically say that this is a number one to a certain extent. And that's why this is one of the key issues in my collection. Every X-Men collector knows this book. But if you don't, well, there's a little bit of a history behind why this is a key issue in my collection. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did in this segment was not just show you guys the book, but show you the book. So I have it in the Mylar bag here. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out. Make sure that, so here's the tape. So I'm trying to get the camera to catch that. I'm going to go ahead and rip the entire piece off. There it is. The last thing I need is when I start pulling out the comic book for this to catch on one of the pages. Comic book suicide. You might as well just dump it in the toilet. So let's go ahead, take my copy out. So this is my copy of X-Men 94. I will always let you know where and how I got it. In this case, this was an eBay purchase. So I did a lot of research. I very patiently waited for an affordable copy, a copy that I was okay with in order to purchase this. As I just, it's been a long time since I took this particular issue out of its bag. So when in Rome, ladies and gents, Axiom comic viewers, when in Rome, you have to smell. You have to smell the goodness of these pages, the ink, the paper that these older comic books were printed on. I mean, they just have a very distinct smell. Hey, collectors out there know exactly what I'm talking about. But here are the pages of the book itself. This is not a Silver Age book, so I'm not too worried about. Actually, I might have to check myself on that. It might be a Silver Age book, so I should probably be wearing gloves, but this is a decent copy, so it's not brittle. I mean, clearly the pages are not white, they are cream colored, um, but the pages are crisp. I can attest to that just based on what I'm doing here. One thing, every time I do buy a book of this caliber, because this is not an inexpensive book, this did cost me quite a pretty penny when I bought it off of eBay, is to count the pages. Comic books are supposed to have a certain number of pages. So one of the first things I do when I buy a key issue of this magnitude is go through and count the pages. Make sure that there are no missing pages. You count them to 15. You count every page to 15. If the total count comes out to 15, you know the book is complete. Most eBay sellers are honest, but it is the internet. It is what it is. It's not always 100% honest. So, make sure that you do your due diligence as it pertains to buying anything online. That was my first video in this new segment that I'm trying out on my channel, Comic Book Look and a Brewsky, which I plan to drop every Friday night, have a little bit of fun with sharing my personal collection. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's called Axeman Comics. I need to incorporate my comics into my content, not just my statues, collectibles, which are awesome. Obviously, I collect them, but I also have a lot of cool comics that I hope the audience, Axeman comic viewers, will appreciate, can appreciate, hopefully. Go read some comics. No, I'll never get preachy on this channel. Please, if you like my content, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, thank you. I know this is a new segment. I'll be dropping the videos every Friday, and you guys will see a new comic book, and I'll tell, sometimes a very personal story, sometimes just eBay was this one. Sometimes they're in depth, but my sign off as always, and I truly, truly mean it. Axeman comic viewers, collect what you love and love what you collect. I'll see you guys in the next one.